Alright, we have all of our former polygons in place. We are ready to skin the fuselage. We do not have to be in a sketch environment to do that, so I'm going back to the Home tab, clicking on Rotate, and moving this around like so. This is the shape we will be. These are all the former polygons in place on the polygon, or on the in space. Let's go ahead and we don't need these two sketches to be visible at this point, so I'm going to hide them so that I only see those. And I'm going to go to my tools, extrude sketch to sketch, select the former polygons, and just like we did with the former sketches, we select these one at a time from front to back, just like so. You can see them being added to the window up there. We have them all selected, and we are ready to build our skin. We do it just by clicking the build button like that. We can now look at that fuselage. By the way, it's rotating around a center. I want it to rotate around that point. By double clicking on it with my left mouse button, it does that. And that fuselage looks pretty good. I could go ahead and go with points. The points is only available if all of the former polygons have the same number of points, and they do, since that's the way we build it. And say build, and look at the difference here. And in this particular case, I think the wrap is a smoother, more effective way to skin that surface. So I went back to wrap, clicked on build, and I'm going to say OK. At this point, I do not need to have these visible anymore. I'll hide them and get them out of our way. And we have half of our Cessna 172 fuselage sitting here in space. It's often nice to be able to say surface properties on the object and go wireframe on it. This lets me check the integrity and the way. You remember I said we're think about this as planking, and you can see that much more effectively this way. And I'm doing a little final check here to make sure that I'm pleased and don't see any real problems, and this looks pretty good. Let me get this back out of wireframe mode by turning this back off. And the D's, as they were created, and I don't like this color. Let me change the color to something that has a little more, maybe a little bit of blue in it or something like that. Too pure, and still that darkness is good. I can see the difference here a little bit better. This side here, it has a surface on it, a skin on it right now. We do not need that. I'm going to select the polys and come in here and click on them one at a time back through here. I'm going to remove these, and I'll show you how to do that. So being careful not to select something I don't mean to all the way back through here. And I have all of the polygons on that side selected. Click on my rotate, turn off the select poly, and I want to make sure that I haven't accidentally selected any polygons in the rest of the fuselage. And none of them are blue, so they're not selected. So this face is all selected. I right click here, I say object, make object. This makes a new object out of these polygons and separates it from the original object. You can see it appear here. This is the skin, this is the other side. This skin I don't want. I can right click it and say delete, and it is gone. Now, the reason you can't see the fuselage here, it didn't disappear. We have the culling on for this object. Let me show you that real quick. Surface properties, the cull is on. If I turn it off, you can see the back side of those polygons. We don't need to see the back side of those polygons, and it's faster to render if I have the cull on. That's why it's there. If I rotate the view, you can still see them just fine. All right, we have half of our fuselage created. We need to build the other half, and that is very simple. You select the object that represents half of the fuselage, go to your tools, say mirror, and we want to mirror across the XZ plane, and say OK. At that point, we have two objects that make the entire fuselage here, and by doing it with the D method, we are guaranteed that both halves are symmetrical. That is very difficult to do if you draw former polygons as a whole, and very easy. I'm looking at this, and I think I would have probably represented the 172's fuselage a little bit better if I had brought these points in a little bit better. But I think for our purpose here for the tutorial, this is quite an acceptable result. In order to make this one object, you select both objects, you right click and say Object, Combine Selected Objects. The original two are still here, they're hidden. This object is the entire object. You can then right click it and say Shade. I like to use about 50 degrees, slightly more than 45, and apply the shading and close, and this is our final fuselage then ready for texturing. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. That's the D method for making fuselages in Digital Aircraft Modeler. Good digital modeling. Thank you.